Today's lesson is about coordinate graphing. Our first vocabulary term is coordinate plane. And coordinate plane is defined or kind of described as it's formed by the intersection of a horizontal and vertical number line. So we take a horizontal number line going this way, and we take a vertical number line going this way. And then we make this grid because of the kind of hatch marks on each number line. We just take them and we extend them instead of making them just little hatch marks, so they look like this. The horizontal number line is what we call our x-axis, and the vertical number line is the one we describe as our y-axis. And we're going to talk about what comes first, x and y, in a little bit, but we label each of those number lines by x and by y. Our next vocabulary term is origin. And the origin of the coordinate plane is the beginning of the coordinate plane. It's where the number lines intersect, and it has an ordered pair of 0, 0. So this dot right here is the origin of our graph. Since it's the beginning of the graph, it's also where we always begin graphing from. So previously, we worked with what we will later call the first quadrant, where all the numbers are positive. But now we are introduced to positive and negative numbers, so we are going to start graphing with positive and negative numbers. So I've already mentioned ordered pairs, but to describe what an ordered pair is, an ordered pair shows one location on a coordinate plane. It's always written in the form x, y, and that would be the x coordinate and then the y coordinate. So one way I like to remember how to graph on the coordinate plane is that you must walk to the elevator before you can go up or down. So my little pictures down here in the corner, we would say that we need to walk to the elevator, which that could be in either direction, before we can go up or down the elevator. Okay, we have to get into the elevator before you can go up or down. All right, so over here on our coordinate plane, you wouldn't normally start with a red dot, but because this is a video and I'm trying to show you the movement, let's say we were trying to get to, let's do the ordered pair of -4, +3. Okay. So you would start here at the origin. Now, normally you don't make the dot until the end, but I'm going to start at the origin or the middle of my coordinate plane, and we have go sideways first, so along our x-axis first. So I'm going to go -4, and negative will always be to the left on the x-axis. So I'm at -4, and then I would go to +3 on my y-axis, the second number being the y-coordinate. Positive would tell us to go up, so I would end up with my dot right there. And the only mark you're going to make on your graph is going to be that dot. Now, one mistake I see some students make is they start at the origin and then they draw lines like this. And then they still put the dot, but they have the lines there. Don't do that, okay? We don't include lines when we're graphing like this. Now, if this were a bar graph or some other type of graph, you might be making some of those lines. But when you're graphing an ordered pair, you only want that one location, that one dot, okay? Let's continue practicing on the next problem. So we are going to be graphing the point 3, 5. Now you will notice that I have this letter here, and we use letters just to label points. A lot of times you'll graph more than one point on the same coordinate plane, and sometimes it's helpful to label them so you know which one is which. And so as we do the next couple practice problems, we'll be labeling them with a letter. Now what I would like you to do is pause this video, and even though you can't write on your computer screen, or you shouldn't write on your computer screen, I want you to visualize where this point would be. So pause the video now if you haven't done so already. I am going to begin showing you what to do. So we already have the dot, and again, I put the dot at the origin because that is where we always start, and then you can see me move it. So my x coordinate, the first number is +3, so I'm going to go sideways to +3. And then my y coordinate, the second number, is +5, so I'm going to go up to +5. My dot would be right where those two lines intersect. Now to label this point, all you would do is right next to that dot is you would just put the letter A. Now sometimes some people will write the complete ordered pair right next to it. I find you will often run out of space for that. Sometimes it is helpful, especially as we get into graphing shapes. But for right now, if they want you to label the point, you just need to put the letter next to it. Let's try the next one. This time we are going to graph the point B, 6, -2. Please pause the video now and try to figure out where that point would be, and then I will continue in a moment. I'm going to begin showing you what to do now. So you would start at the origin, and we are moving +6 to begin, which means we're on our x-axis. We're going to move sideways first, so I would move to +6, and then this time it is -2, so I would move down 2. Be careful, it's kind of goofy where those numbers are, so make sure you caught on to that. My point would end up here, and then I would label this simply with the letter B next to that point. Is that where you thought this point was? Let's try another one. This time we are going to graph point C at 0, -4. So please pause the video now and try to figure out where this point would be. I will go over it in a moment. I will begin going over it now. Starting at my origin, do I need to move side to side? Okay, since our first coordinate is 0, that means you will not move sideways at all because it tells us not to move any sideways or on the x-axis. My next coordinate is -4. So for the y, which is our vertical, we are going to go to -4 or down 4. And then our point would be right here, which is on the y-axis, down 4 from the x-axis, and let's label it with the letter C. All right, on the next slide, we're going to start working into another skill for this. Our final vocabulary term for this lesson is quadrants. Quadrants are the 4 regions of the graph separated by the intersecting number lines. So we've already talked about our x-axis being our horizontal axis or horizontal number line, and our y-axis is our vertical number line or y-axis. So the quadrants are these 4 sections of our graph created by the separations of those 2 number lines. And because these number lines go on forever, technically these quadrants go on forever as well. So we have names for these 4 quadrants so that we can always identify where a point is. So we always start in the top right quadrant, and this is quadrant 1, and they are often shown with Roman numerals. So I'm going to write quadrant 1 as just the Roman numeral 1, or it looks kind of like a capital I. Sometimes you will see them written like Q1, but they are often shown by the Roman numerals, so it is important for us to know those. So we have quadrant 1 in the top right corner, and then we are going to work counterclockwise, meaning that I'm going to go to the left, and this is quadrant 2, which is kind of like 2 eyes put together, and then continuing counterclockwise, this would be quadrant 3, which is 3 lines vertically, and then the 2 horizontals at the top and the bottom. And then we have quadrant 4, and quadrant 4 is 1 line down and then a V, and then the horizontal lines at the top and the bottom. So we have our 4 quadrants: quadrant 1, quadrant 2, quadrant 3, quadrant 4. Make sure you know and recognize those Roman numerals. You can also describe these quadrants as Q1, Q2, Q3, and not a good Q, Q4. And the Q's just stand for quadrants. Now, there are 3 more locations on the coordinate plane besides the quadrants. So we already talked about quadrants 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I'll go ahead and I'll label those with the Roman numerals. Quadrant 1, quadrant 2, quadrant 3, and quadrant 4. Additionally, we also have our x-axis as a location, our y-axis for a location, and the origin as a location. So if I took this red point, this point where it is right now would be in quadrant 1. Okay, this is also quadrant 1, this is still quadrant 1, this is quadrant 1. However, if the point were right here, that would not be in quadrant 1. It also would not be in quadrant 2, where the point is right now is actually on the y-axis. It's neither in quadrant 1 or quadrant 2. Okay, so that is very important that we recognize that. Again, anywhere in this area would be quadrant 2. This, however, if I put it right here, would be the x-axis. This would be the x-axis, this would still be the x-axis, okay? Quadrant 3, anywhere down here, quadrant 4, anywhere down here, okay? If the point is very much so at the middle, it's technically on the x and the y-axis, but we have named that as the origin. Let's practice graphing points and identifying their locations. So you're going to want to remember these 7 locations. Quadrant 1, 2, 3, and 4. The x-axis, the y-axis, and the origin. Let's practice. So I would like you to look at the red dot where it is, and I want you to write down the ordered pair for that dot, and I also want you to tell me the location of that point. And you can choose one of 7, either one of the 4 quadrants. Is it on our x or our y-axis, or is it at the origin? So pause this video now, write down the ordered pair and the location. I'm going to begin going over the problem now. Alright, so looking at this point where it is, I would write my ordered pair first, and looking at where it's at, I know that if I started at my origin, I would have to go over to positive 1, so that would be this going over here, and then I know I would have to go down to negative 4, so my ordered pair is 1, negative 4. And then thinking about where this point is at, I would say that this point is located in quadrant 4. So using that Roman numeral or using Q4. So identify the ordered pair and location. The ordered pair is 1, negative 4. The location is quadrant 4. Let's try again. Please take a look at where the red point is now. Pause this video and identify the ordered pair and location of that red point. Please pause now. I'm going to begin going over it. So looking at this point, and I purposely put a little bit of a trick in here because what you'll notice is if I started at my origin and I went over to where this point is, that line right here is actually not labeled. But because we hopefully know our number lines, what number would that be? Oh, that's negative 7, exactly. So the last one labeled right here was negative 6, so one more is negative 7. So I've gone over negative 7, and then I go up, so it's going to be a positive 4. So negative 7, positive 4 is my ordered pair. Now, what location is this one in? And you don't always have to circle it, just kind of do it to draw your eye to it. All right, but this is quadrant 2, so using that Roman numeral or using Q2. We've got one more problem. Let's see how we can do. All right, same thing. Let's identify the ordered pair and location of this point. So pause this video now if you haven't already. Write down the ordered pair and the location. I'm going to begin going over it now. So if I'm looking at this point, I know that I would have to start at my origin, and I recognize that going horizontally, I would be going to -2 first, or 2 to the left. And then I am not moving up or down at all, which means my y coordinate is going to be 0. So my ordered pair is -2, 0. Then for my location, now I'm not in a quadrant this time. I actually am right on my x-axis, so I would write my location as the x-axis. Hopefully this has helped introduce and make you feel a little bit comfortable with graphing points in the coordinate plane, or identifying ordered pairs from the coordinate plane, and even identifying locations on the coordinate plane. Please let me know if you have any questions.